Ford dealers are expressing concerns over the cost to be able to sell EVs. Basically, if you want to sell EVs for Ford in any meaningful amount, you have to pay $1.5 million US just to be able to do it. And then there are lots of stipulations on top of that. 29 Ford dealers have dropped out after some changes that Ford have made. Basically, they're saying that they don't want to sell EVs at all. And 24 dealers opted to drop from the top tier to the bottom tier. There are only really two tiers that are meaningful at all. There's only really one choice. If you want to sell Ford's EVs, you have to pay $1.5 million US to Ford to sell their cars. Which is a lot for a lot of the dealerships. There are lots of dealerships in the USA. Not all of them are able to pay comfortably $1.5 million US. It's a lot of money. So if you're in a metropolitan city, for example, a densely populated area, lots of sales, $1.5 million is probably still quite a lot to you. But if you're in a more rural place, such as I think what is happening in North Carolina, then that is a lot. You probably just can't afford that, and so therefore you can't sell Ford's EVs, which is a big deal. So there are really just two tariffs. There's the top tariff, you pay $1.5 million US and you can sell Ford's EVs, or you pay $600,000 and you can sell up to 25. And that's it, basically, if you want to sell the EVs from Ford. Welcome to the channel, everybody. I'm Ben Alexander. If you're new here, remember to click subscribe so that every day you'll get notifications of my videos, because I make videos every day about electric cars. So if you want to be up to date, click subscribe. Also, if you're enjoying the video so far, please just click like, because that helps it get shown to other people. Ford have made changes to its electric vehicle program, and this is why 29 dealers have dropped out completely. And a lot of dealers have not signed up to the EV program. And then a lot of other dealers have dropped down from the top tier to the bottom tier of the program. And that's what this is all about. It's left Ford in a bit of a sticky situation. Dealers in North Carolina are the latest to file a lawsuit against Ford for these changes. This is all happening as a result of a large amount of complaints from a majority of state dealer associations. So according to Ford, 1,891 Ford retailers and dealers have enrolled into the Model E program, which is a decrease from 1,920, a reduction of 1.5% of dealers and retailers. But we're talking about a company that's a multi-billion-dollar company, so 1.5% of the dealers not opting into this is a big deal. This is all happening as a result of a large amount of complaints from state dealer associations. According to Ford, 1,891 Ford retailers and dealers have enrolled in the Model E program, which is a decrease from 1,920, a reduction of 1.5%, which doesn't sound a lot, but it is a lot because it's a multi-billion-dollar company and they're being sued heavily by the people that are trying to sell their own products. So that's why this is a big deal. Most of the changes were based around easing restrictions on the lower tier. So you didn't have to install 4 rapid chargers, for example, and you don't have to maintain them around the clock 24 hours a day so that everyone can use them whenever they want. One change that really was not taken very well was if you're on the lower tier, if you've paid $600,000, you can only sell 25 cars per year, electric vehicles. Meanwhile, a group of 46 Ford dealers in North Carolina, so 46 dealers in North Carolina, that's a lot, this month filed a petition challenging the program with the state's commissioner of the Division of Motor Vehicles, following similar legal actions in New York and Illinois. The petition amounts to a lawsuit since the commission is the legal authority that regulates such matters. That's a big deal. And that's definitely a big sticky situation for Ford. In the petition, the dealers allege the voluntary program is illegal since it would prohibit those who do not opt in from selling EVs in the future. The dealers also are not pleased with the various sales practices they would be required to implement if they were to join the program, including setting no haggle prices and offering remote pickup and delivery. So Ford are really stipulating a lot, and they're really making sure that people, such as the dealers, aren't charging crazy prices well above the MSRP, which is what Ford probably should be doing, but only to a point. So it's probably all right if a dealer was to sell a car for a couple of thousand, a few thousand, 1 or 2 or 3,000 more than the MSRP, but not necessarily for 10 or 20 or 30 or $40,000. Through the EV program, Ford seeks to coerce dealers into expending huge sums of money unnecessarily in order to continue selling vehicles they are already authorized to sell. That's something that the dealers have written. Ford's EV program will serve to reduce the number of Ford dealers in North Carolina and further restrict consumer access to electric vehicles, particularly those citizens residing in parts of North Carolina outside the largest cities, i.e. the poorer places that aren't in the metropolitan areas are going to suffer, I think, because they can't get access to EVs. Enrollment in the elite tier fell by 53, and basically this is pretty bad because there is basically only 2 tiers. Like I said, you have the top tier where you can sell Ford's electric vehicles, but you have to give them $1.5 million. You have the next tier down, which is $600,000. So if you think about it logically, there are dealers out there that have been selling Ford cars happily for 30 years, 50 years, and they are happy to abide by the Ford rules to sell their cars, of course. But now they're being told if you want to sell EVs, you have to pay $1.5 million to us if you are going to sell a meaningful amount of electric vehicles, i.e. if you want to be a part of our future. And that's not so good. That's definitely an issue for Ford. A lot of these dealers have written as well, and they said they want to sell Ford EVs, but they just don't make enough money. They can't afford to just give $1.5 million away. There are other brands, such as GM, that are doing similar sort of stuff and making stipulations. However, GM, for example, are heavily subsidizing dealers and giving them money so that they can send their sales staff on training courses to learn the ins and outs of electric vehicles, because a lot of them just don't know very much. So that's a good example of how maybe it should be done. A Ford spokesperson said, "It is important that dealers have the option to do what they believe is best for their business and their customers for the 2024 to 2026 period," a spokesperson said in a statement. So, as we continue to scale our EV volumes, our second enrollment period will open up for 2027 to 2029. Ford are enrolling their dealers in waves. So this is how this is working. If you can't afford to pay us $1.5 million now, we'll give you a couple of years off and we'll come back to you once you've started to realize your business may be suffering. That's how this is going to work. And I guess if you don't sign up in the second wave, there may be a third or may not be a third. I don't know. So I would argue that it's kind of an elitist mindset. In the statement, Ford did say that the dealers should make the best decision for their businesses, but clearly they're in business to make money and they want to sell Ford EVs. However, they may not be able to afford to give $1.5 million away for nothing so that you can permit that dealership to sell Ford EVs. It doesn't really work like that, and it doesn't make any sense to me why you would want to pay $600,000 and go on the lower tier if you can only sell 25 cars, electric cars, in the first place. So you're not really giving the dealers very many choices. Ultimately, I think this is ill thought out by Ford. I don't know what they're thinking, but people in the poorer parts of the country that want to access an EV simply won't be able to buy them because there will be less dealers with them. So it's the poorer people that's going to suffer here. I think this is a system that's ill thought out by Ford, and having a blanket rule that they've just given to the whole country and all of the states doesn't make sense to me at all. So I have no idea why people would either choose to be on the $600,000 tier or the $1.5 million tier, because neither make sense to me at all. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe for more electric vehicle content. See you in the next video.